So let's try this lowercase. So let's say menu in lowercase. Let's continue this theme of the left or the up and down vertical alignment. Let's see how that works. Let's pop on my grid for a moment to see if I can find some good alignment here, have it snap to the edge. I like to have lots of margin, and that's another thing when you're doing these projects is having consistent margin around the edges, and it's going to set the pace for all the other projects we do. So we're doing a lot of homework here. So what else do we need to have on our menu? Looks like we have a little phrase here that they want to include. Let's do our box, our rectangle box, and let's do a area type tool. So just going down to my area type tool, clicking in the top left corner and pasting in what we have from the Word document. This seems like it would be a good subheading, so it would probably be bigger than this, but not quite as big. So let's get our eyedropper tool and sample this. This is our biggest headline size, but that might be as a pretty large block of copy, so we're going to need something smaller. So let's make it a bit smaller, and let's reduce the spacing between lines here, so just changing our leading. And notice how, and this is why we're doing all this, is to figure out how it works. This is competing with the menu and the main titles, so this needs to probably be a little bit of a lighter weight, perhaps medium or semi-bold. Let's try medium, and let's make it even smaller. Let's try 14, and then reduce the leading a little bit to make it work. And I like the idea of this vertical typography here on the right. So wonder if we get a different logo here and go back to our logo system and get one of these tags. I guess we call them a banner. Let's slide that right here so it clicks right in there. So you notice how it's the width of one of these boxes. It's kind of nice how everything is matching up to the grid. So now we have some menu items to put in there. We have Mackie. It's going to be our first. So we can get our eyedropper tool, start with a subheading. And we don't want to have this entire thing be the same font weight because this is more background information. It's kind of a descriptor. So we need to make that descriptor smaller. So we need to kind of come up with an even smaller font size. So you see how we're starting big and we're getting smaller and smaller and smaller. We're trying to get that type hierarchy and differentiating type. So everything kind of stands out in the best way possible. So we could try 8 points there, changing the leading, tightening that up. And now we've got to list all of our menu items. So let's see what we have here. We have a couple of prices and a couple of items. So this obviously needs to be bigger, but not bigger than Mackie. So perhaps making Mackie 16 and making this 14 or even 12. And we need to have more spacing between or a little bit more leading, kind of let that breathe a little bit. So let's try 9 for that. Because we got a lot of menu items, so we can't make it too big. We have to kind of really balance all this out to fit everything in nicely. So let's make Mackie a little bit bigger. Let's make that 22. And once again with type hierarchy, we need to emphasize certain parts of a phrase or sentence or paragraph over the others. So this kind of descriptor here, so this is mackerel, it's describing what Saba is. Let's make that italic and also a lighter weight. So there's differentiation between the description and the listing item. So we're going to do that with all of these. Just get my eyedropper tool and sample it. This is kind of finding ways to differentiate certain items. Same thing for the price. The price gets lost when all this is the same font weight. So let's see if we can't make that extra bold, just like our headline. So we need to make sure we can fit a couple of different columns of information. That'll also help us determine our font size too. So it looks like we have 2 rows here we need to fit in. Just going to duplicate, put the same spacing between the columns. And I'm just going to go ahead and fill in this information with some of the other items. So Nigiri is next. We also have some small print that we need to bring in. That's going to be right down here. It's basically the consuming raw or uncooked meats mandatory line that you have to include. we have kind of the small body copy here. That's italics and small print. And this is going to be, let's see what size is that, 6 points. And I don't like to make anything much smaller than 6 points, or it's going to be really hard to read on a printed menu. So let's also change the leading. So we're really starting to get a nice layout for the menu. Going to toggle off grids and see what we have. Let's say we want to bring that circle idea in. And we wanted to kind of emphasize a circle because it's the shape of a Mackie roll, and kind of put a little headline or something kind of fun in there. And when we get to brand language, we get to really do this a lot more. But let's take our subheading and let's take our eyedropper tool. I just want to see what this main heading looks like in this little bubble. And we're not worried about color or any of that right now, or any other thing but typography here. And let's bring in a little phrase. Need a break. My chopsticks need a break. So just kind of something funny and clever in the middle. So do we want to do, we need to do a much smaller, we have needed much smaller headline size. So we need to figure out what that might be. Let's try 22. We had 22 up here too, but we can still make this bold. Tighten the leading, and we can also see if a left alignment looks good in this little circle, or maybe perhaps a center alignment. So what ended up working well was a 14.93, so we'll end up rounding that up so we have nice even numbers. Let's just make it 15 even. 15 points for that to work, because anything more than that, it was not fitting in the circle with enough margin. See kind of this nice clear margin I have here. Kind of that seems to be the theme, is having nice, clean, lots of extra margin, especially right here. So what if we were to add little, I know we're just doing typography, but what if we were just to add a couple of separator lines here? So this is what I came up with. I say about 15 minutes of typography exploration happened here by creating this simple menu. And it taught me a lot about the sizes that I need to make things to make them readable and to make them work in practical projects. But now I have a basis for body copy, for subheadings, for headings, for slogans and sayings and contact information and small print and logo size. Like all of this has been explored by doing kind of a sample menu. So now I can go on each one of these and figure out what size I'm going to need for each typeface so we can get our system going. So next we're going to put all that together in one sheet so we can be able to easily present and let people know. And what is our type scale? And type scale is how typography scales. So you could have your headline. Well, your subheading, what is the difference between your headline and the subheading? Is it a 20% scaled down? What is your type scale? And that's kind of what you're figuring out. Does it scale down perfectly? Does it scale down according to the golden ratio? Or does it scale down according to how it looks good, which is kind of what I'm going to do. How does it look on the menu? What's the practical way it can scale down, and all the different options I have? Because we don't want to say, use this typeface and use it however you'd like. We need to set up that system so they know, okay, if I need body copy, I know I need to use this exact size. I need to use a 9-point medium weight, and there's no room for error. It's all spelled out for them. So we're going to do that next.